Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other, and today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 4, Episode 6, Kung Fu Fighting. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So, starting with the patients, we had a skydiver that fell 12,000 feet into some shrubbery, and the only thing he needed was an appendectomy. And of course, he's high on the adrenaline of surviving a near-death experience, and he's in love with his skydiving instructor, and he wants to tell her, but she's very frantic, so he's not able to. The group, Christina, Alex, Meredith, and I think Izzy's there as well, watch the video from his helmet in which, as he's falling, he's basically screaming about how he loves Sally before, he thinks he's going to die. And then at the end of the episode, Meredith warns him that a near-death experience, you feel really high and whole at the end of it, but that feeling does go away and you're right back where you started. And so if he's going to tell Sally, he has to do it now. And then Sally walks in, but we don't really get to see the result. Then the second is a man who needs heart surgery. At first, they try to put in a catheter, but it turns out he's allergic to the anesthesia, so they have to stop the procedure. Additionally, they find a blocked artery, so they can't put the catheter in. They have to do actual surgery. Christina, hoping to get back into the cardiothoracic side of things, comes up with a way to do the surgery while the man is awake, but she's still cut out of the surgery by Dr. Hahn, and Izzy, who's officially on her service, and it is technically Izzy's patient, is the one who is brought into the surgery, which ends up being a good thing because Izzy's empathy and knowledge of the patient's birdwatching hobby allows her to calm him down when he panics about being watched, as he's literally awake while his heart is being operated on. And he comes out of the surgery fine, so we assume he'll be able to achieve his dream of going to see a very rare bird. And then lastly, we have two patients kind of combined as one, but a store decides to host a competition for a dream wedding, or rather money towards a dream wedding. And the two finalist brides are holding on to the dress. They end up getting into an actual physical altercation, which leads to them both needing to be brought into the hospital, conjoined because they are not willing to let go of the wedding dress. However, because one of them needs her shoulder relocated because it's been dislocated, George, in a way for Callie and Sloane to sort of mess with him, is made the proxy of the bride, and so he has to hold the wedding dress. Meanwhile, the other bride is obviously made to be the more sympathetic one, and as a result of that, she ends up bonding with George before fainting, and he then has to catch her. Because he lets go when he catches her, she ends up the winner, woot, and they manage to save both brides. They get healed. Meanwhile, Richard has been living on Derek's land because he didn't want to stay in the hotel anymore. And over breakfast, they kind of discuss like a rut that they've gotten into. So Richard says they should have a gentleman's evening. And because of that phrasing, Derek and Sloane basically spend the entire episode trying to figure out what a gentleman's evening is. Only to find out it just means that it's an evening without women. But then Dr. Hahn, because she guilted Richard about how he was excluding the female attending, that is to say her, from this evening, he ends up bringing her, so it ultimately ends up not being a gentleman's evening anyways, but they play Monopoly. Lexi and Alex kind of bond over the day with him bringing her onto his service when he finds her charting in a closet. At the end of the day, she kind of has a crush on him, but he warns her, like, you're not going to get a relationship from me, but if you just want physical, we're good to go. And then we find them getting caught together by Meredith where Lexi's wrapped in a sheet, so we can assume what happened before they got to the bathroom where they were giggling. George and Izzy decide that they've been respectful enough in giving time for Callie to heal and for everything to settle down, and now they want to have their second night together. And at the start of the episode, Izzy's all excited, she's planning it, but then all of the surgeries happen, and by the time they're actually ready to go ahead with their second night, she starts bawling her eyes out, which probably is traumatic deja vu for George to when Meredith did kind of a similar thing. And Izzy's basically like, I'm exhausted, I can't do this right now, we have to pick another night, this isn't perfect, blah, blah, blah. And so they just end up going to sleep. But that's what happened. Now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll rank the episode first on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking list. So first we have our single episode supporting character introductions. We have our patients, Rick Jacobs, who is the one who fell through the sky, Mr. Arnold, who was awake during heart surgery, and then Jackie Escott and Helena Boyle, or Boy, were the brides who were fighting over the wedding dress. Helena ultimately is the one who won. And then we have the supporting relationship development, which is Lexi and Alex becoming physically intimate, and then the multi-season main character development of George becoming the dress proxy as a way to mess with him. I did not include Izzy and George's thing because I feel like it cancels out. Development, they plan their second night and decide to be intimate again. Regression, they end up failing. +2, -2 cancels out. I didn't bother to put it on the chart, but honorable mention, that did happen. Either way, that does ultimately leave us with a score of 9 out of 10. And that brings our mostly objective ranking to in first, A Change is Gonna Come, Kung Fu Fighting, Haunt You Every Day, Love Addiction, Let the Truth Sting, and then The Heart of the Matter is in sixth. Now, sorry. My personal ranking for this episode, I ultimately found it to be meh, kind of average, to be honest. I liked all of the patient concepts, falling 12,000 feet only to like not be injured. Talk about lucky. Um, I liked the concept of the open heart surgery. I also liked the whole wedding dress competition thing. However, I did feel it a bit contrived in that they very clearly and obviously made one of the brides sympathetic and the other one not, so that you wouldn't feel, maybe if you picked a favorite, you wouldn't feel a grudge over who actually ended up winning it. But it was so obviously contrived and meant to make you feel that way that it just kind of fell flat for me. Similarly, like the awake heart surgery, guy's fine, Izzy's talking him through it, warning him about, you'll hear some sounds, you'll smell some things, just keep watching the bird, and she puts a bird picture up because he's a bird watcher. Then he realizes there's people in the gallery. He has a full-on freak out, and she manages to calm him down by having him pretend that the people watching are birds and has him tell her about what type of bird he thinks each person would be. So again, like Christina, she's the one who came up with the idea. She wanted in on the surgery. She clearly has chosen her specialty already. She's not really shopping around. Izzy's on the service though, and she's not really that invested, but playing it. But then they chose this particular patient again because it can highlight Izzy's empathy, and Izzy's empathy works with this patient in a way that Christina wouldn't be able to kind of again soften the blow of, oh, you've taken a surgery from Christina, um, as Christina's being shut out by Dr. Hahn, which again, it's just so contrived and it was so obvious what they were doing that it fell flat because it didn't feel as natural as they've made things feel in the past. Um, The skydiving one, because there were no injuries, it ultimately ended up also being a little bit boring, even though the concept itself was pretty exciting. Drama-wise, it was basically mess with George to make Callie feel a bit better, plan an evening of intimacy that doesn't happen, and then a little bit of flirting between Alex and Lexi that ultimately leads to them being intimate, but then Lexi finds out Alex lives with Meredith and is a little put off at the very last scene. And then the gentleman's evening, everybody running around trying to figure out what that is. There was a funny moment where Dr. Hahn thought maybe that Sloane and Shepard were an item, but that was done in a very funny way. So it was a fun moment, but it was just a moment. So ultimately, while I didn't dislike anything, nothing in the episode really overly offended me that I haven't discussed in previous episodes. I just didn't really feel like anything was overly exciting either, and it felt like a lot of parts of it were very, again, contrived and obvious why things were happening, and it didn't feel as natural. Um, so 5 I felt was fair, and that brings the personal ranking to A Change Is Gonna Come, Haunt You Every Day, Love/Addiction, Let the Truth Sting, Kung Fu Fighting is in 5th place, and then in 6th, The Heart of the Matter. So now we come to the series ranking, and our mostly objective ranking has season 1 in first with 77.78%, season 2 second with 76.67%, season 3 in third with 66.52%, and season 4 so far has a score of 35 out of 150. Personal ranking, season 3 was in first place with 77.39, followed by season 2 with 72.22%, season 1 in third with 66.67%, and season 4 so far has 39 out of a possible 150. With that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 4, Episode 6, Kung Fu Fighting. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.